It's been a while now, but I have did some things that are very unwise in my working habits. I have worked some time, actually 24 hours straight. 24 hours straight. Other times I've worked a 9-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour shift and went to another area and worked another 9, 10, 12 hours. Whether you know it or not, that can be draining. You may feel, and I'll confess to you, I did drink energy drinks. Anybody ever drunk energy drinks? I drank so many of them, it didn't even work. It was, I took some of the things that they sell to help. It says to give you energy. I remember, have you ever worked so much that when you're driving, you don't even tell you're starting to drift off? In your mind, your eyes are open, but your eyes are closed. You don't even remember. All right, don't tell on yourself. Have you ever driven and you couldn't remember? You can work to such a degree that you're just tired physically. But now physically is not the only way. You can work, you can do things that gets you drained mentally. Mentally, you're tired. I mean, you can read so much that you're tired. You can study that you're tired. You can think about something so much that you're tired. Not only physically and mentally, but even emotionally. Somebody in the room are tired of some folk. You are weary. When you see them, it drains everything out of you. Everybody say tired. You can be tired at work. You can be tired at home. You can be tired on the job. You can be tired of doing. If you've ever exerted your energy in doing housework, it'll get you. And with this heat, it does not help. It'll help you get tired. You can get tired. And anybody ever got tired of their job? You may not want to say it, but many have the idea that I work just hard enough not to get fired, and they pay me just enough not to quit. But the fact of the matter is I am tired. When I get up in the morning, before I get there, I feel like some people actually, you feel better when you leave, and then all right. Everybody say tired. Several things can bring on tiredness because the tiredness that people experience have ways of not only dealing with you physically, mentally, emotionally, but also relationally. You're just tired of dealing with them. I'm tired of hearing from you. I'm tired of going. I'm all right, I'll give you one of mine. I'm tired of getting bills every month. They don't miss a month. Every month, I am tired. Sometimes I go to the mailbox and I know what's going to be there if nothing else. I'm looking for a check, but I do know if I don't have a check, I will have a. And some people are so kind, so kind. Everybody say tired. Some people are so kind. They send mail extending the opportunity for bills. Credit card companies. I didn't ask for that. They'll say, you've been chosen. There's a credit card already approved. I'm tired of getting those notices and those bills. Tiredness brings on a lot of things. All right, I'll go here. Some people are tired of even doing church work. I knew it would be a little silent there. I understand because oftentimes if you feel like you are doing so much and you're not gaining anything, it can be a challenge. It can be a challenge. I get it. I get it. Most of the time on Sunday mornings when I come in, normally I'm the first one here, and I just have a thing. Forgive me. I have a thing about the people of God coming into the house of God, and it's not ready. And so it's usually Brother Isaiah, when I come, when I'm driving up, I may see trash on this side. And so it does not matter what I've done on last evening, how late I was up or how early I had to get up. I just don't want you to come on the grounds and see stuff. And so I make it a habit of making sure I'm picking up stuff. Anybody ever see me when you come in? Yes, I want to make sure, because I don't want the house of God, the property of God, or the people of God to experience that. But I don't do it just because I love to do it. Sometimes that can be tiring. Everybody say tired. I'll confess to you that there are times when I wish I can get sleep and I don't get as many texts or call. And whether you know it or not, the preacher is bivocational. That means I have a secular job and I have a spiritual aspect of a job as a pastor and a preacher. And they run in and run over and run and doing two jobs at one, you can get tired. I'm not going to add into trying to further my education in theology and in ministry and study time and research time. You can get tired doing church work. Everybody say tired. And I don't know about you, and I know I'm going to walk on the edge here, but even sometimes you can get tired of doing things that are good. Well, preacher, what are some good things you get tired of doing? One good thing is actually exercising. If you don't see the benefit of it right off, you do a few jumping jacks, a few push-ups, a few lunges, and then get through doing it and look in the mirror. And all right, I'm going to do it again. And so you do a few jumping jacks, a few push-ups, a few set-ups, a few leg lunges and all of that, and you go back to the mirror. If you don't see immediate benefits, sometimes it can be, oh, all right, some people do it for 2 days, all two of them. I'm going to do it. I'm done made up my mind. I'm going to do it by day 3. I am tired. I've been working all day long. I don't feel like doing those jumping jacks, and I don't feel like doing those push-ups and those. It can be tired doing some good things. Anybody ever got tired of eating good food or the right food? I asked my wife the other day, I said, I want salads this week. I want salads. And then she said, do you want protein in the salads? And yeah, you can put some meat in there. But I'll confess to you, after a few days of eating the right food, I want some stuff that y'all say that's not good for you. Get tired of eating, and then you sprinkle a little something on it and put a little dressing on it to help it, but grass still tastes like, everybody say tired. You can be tired of doing the good. All right, you can get tired of speaking to somebody, being nice to them, showing love, forgiveness, and they still treat you wrong, and they still treat you bad, and you say, you know what, I'm getting tired of this. I speak to you every morning and you look at me as if I was nothing. I'll tell you what, you can get tired of doing the right thing. You can get tired of forgiving somebody over and over and over and over. You haven't gotten to 70 times 7 yet, but you done got to 4 times and you're saying, you know what, I'm getting tired of forgiving you for the same. Anybody ever just been tired? Well, the Bible actually brings out something that has to do with a degree of tiredness. But he says, I don't want you, I understand there's a degree of being tired, but I don't want you to be tired of doing what's right and what's good. In the book of Galatians, chapter 9, in particular chapter 6, in particular verse 9. Galatians chapter 6, in particular, I'm going to cue in on verse 9. Galatians 6 and 9. I want you to listen closely because he is talking about 2 parts. This is what it says. He says, if you have it, say I have it. Come on, say it loud. Say I have it. He says, and let us not grow weary while doing good. For in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. One translation says, don't be weary in well-doing. You shall reap if you faint not. The Living Bible says, and let us not get tired of doing what is right, for after a while we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't get discouraged and give up. The New Living, the New Living Translation, the other was the Living Bible. The New Living Translation says, so let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, you will reap a harvest of blessings if you don't give up. And so today I want to deal with this as a subject. Everybody repeat this real loudly after me. Say the reaping season. Say it much louder. Say the reaping season. That wasn't everybody. I want to hear you loud. Say the reaping season. Paul brings out something. Actually, he deals with the literal and the spiritual, the natural and the spiritual. He deals with what we do in our lives daily, but also what we do in our lives spiritual. And I understand the context of the scripture bears witness that there's sometimes in our walk doing what is right in the sight of God and man, you can get tired of doing what's wrong, especially if you have made a change in your life and you have decided, I'm going to stop fussing and cursing with people who deserve it. I'm going to stop giving folk a piece of my mind, folk who ask for it. I'm going to stop allowing them to get on that last nerve, and then I take off all of the religious stuff I did all week long, and I'm going to put them in check. If I have decided to stop doing those things, I'm going to do those things that God would tell me to do in his word and what is expected, and it looks like they haven't changed at all. I'm thinking to myself, okay, God, I have planted nice all last week. I've spoke to them. I've said good morning. I've tried to work and I've tried to help them. I've done things that, I normally would not do. Especially, not just I wouldn't do for my haters, but I stopped doing it for things, for people that was unappreciators. And I started doing it again. I started, can you use any help? Can I help you do this? Can I help? And people act like you have to do it. You need to do it. And you say, wait, hold on. I'm tired of doing all this, and you haven't changed your ways? Have you ever? All right. You've done things to say, I'm going to be a blessing. I'm going to help somebody else, and they may not have. Have you ever bought somebody lunch or breakfast or something, and they never asked to buy yours or never? You say, oh, no, I'm tired of this. It's bring your own. Everybody say tired. The writer Paul tells them there's sometimes you can begin to do the right thing in your life, and if you don't see what you think you ought to see as a benefit, you get tired. God, I've been living holy. I mean, I stopped fussing and cussing. I stopped sleeping around. I stopped doing things on the job that I ought not do, stealing time, But I don't see, all right, I'll go on, God. I stopped misusing in my finances, but look like I'm still struggling in areas. The writer here, he gives an exhortation. Paul actually leads us to believe that you can be doing good already and sometimes get tired. I think it's important to understand in the book of Galatians, he's talking to the church there, to the people of God, because they have begun to do things that are right, begin to go on the right journey, but they're saying, but it doesn't look like my circumstances are changing. It doesn't look like things are being turned around. It doesn't look like things are working out for my benefit. Anybody ever asked yourself or asked God, now how long do I have to keep doing what's right before things start changing? Anybody ever got tired of doing the things right? All right, I know you don't want to say it, but can you admit there's been times where you said to yourself, I'm tired of doing what's right. Let me slip back into doing what I used to do. Paul brings out something I think is vital for you and I. He gives an exhortation. He says, don't grow weary in doing well. Don't grow weary in well doing. And I think that's important because if I don't see immediate benefits in my life or changes, sometimes I can get weary. I mean, if I've been sinning all this time and I think when I turn my life around and I begin to do what is right, then all of my difficulties, all of my challenges, all of those things that I had problems with, they ought to change too, because I've changed for a little while. And Paul brings out to you, I know you don't see it right now, but don't get tired. Everybody say, don't get tired. Say it loud. Say, don't get tired. It's categorized by being, I'm mentally exhausted. I've exerted myself. I've strained. I've gone further than I normally would. Now I'm fatigued. I'm just tired of doing this over. I'm tired of saying the right things and I'm still getting the wrong response. I'm tired of acting the right way and people are still against me. I'm just tired. Paul says here to the church there, he says, do not get weary. Don't be weary in well doing. That's an exhortation for the people of God, because oftentimes we do get weary. I know you come to church and you smile all the time. But if the truth were told, if you look like how you feel or how you think, people may say, what's wrong? And they don't want to hear you say, I am tired. As a matter of fact, especially if they brought out some things that are challenging to you, you don't want to say it, but sometimes you think it. I'm tired of you. Everybody say, don't be weary. Paul brings an exhortation. He says, don't be weary. In particular, he's saying, don't be weary in your walk with God. Don't be weary. Don't give up. Don't give in with your walk with God, even though it seems as if there is no change. One of the things spiritually I saw there when he said, don't be weary with your walk with God. If I had a desire, if I had a predisposed thought and feeling, or even I'll go further, love for or lust for a particular thing, and I'm trying my best to restrain myself from stop doing those things that I know are not pleasing in the sight of God. And so I did it on day one. It was a struggle, but I knew the first day was going to be difficult. And so I made it through, but then I got to day two and I thought it would be a little easy because I had a whole day's experience in it. Then I made it to day three, but now I done got to a week. I done did what's right. I've been walking right before God. I gave my life to God. I've changed some of my ways, and it doesn't look like nothing has changed. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes you can get tired. I've stopped looking at folk with hateful eyes, even though they deserve it. Anybody ever looked at somebody and they deserve the look you gave them? Some people used to say, if you could read my mind. They don't have to. They can read your face. All right. I don't know why people come to church. They don't. Have you ever given anybody a look that says, I wish you would? All it takes is the look. Somebody else in the room would say, I've given people the look to say, go ahead. Do it. Some look says, I dare you. And we put us that look, that feeling, they get it, and you hadn't even said it, but it could be simply said, I'm tired of you. Paul exhorts. Everybody say exhortation. He says, don't be weary in well-doing. Don't give up, don't give in, just because it does not look like change is apparent. Paul says, don't be weary. And I think that's what the church needs to do, because if I'm going to make it not only spiritually in my walk with God and even to heaven, you can't get weary and give up. But not only in the spiritual, also in the natural. It's one thing to say, I want to save $1,000. I want to save $5,000. One of the things I pray that my wife and I have tried to put into our children, now that they're grown and working it all, get the concept of putting money in the bank and don't touching it. But sometimes you put so much, I believe at a minimum, you ought to have at least $1,000 in savings at a minimum. Some can go much further. You ought to try your best to save at least $5,000. I mean, if you can, save $10,000. Somebody's already saying, if I made that. But sometimes when you're putting money in the bank and you see something you want to get, and have anybody ever said, you know what? I tell you what, I'm going to use it, but I'm expecting a big refund or a bonus or a raise, and then I'll put it right back. Really, you've gotten tired of putting something there and not seeing the benefit, and something else has grabbed you. Paul exhorts them in this exhortation. He says, don't grow weary in well-doing. Keep putting it there. Keep putting it there. Keep putting it there. I remember when I drive a particular car that they won't allow me, the manufacturer recommends to put tires on that are not as cheap as others, as not low priced as others. And so where some people could get away with $69.99 a tire, some of us have to pay $250, $300 a tire. I remember when I could get away with getting an oil change for $15 in 10 minutes. You don't even have to get out your car. But when I take my car to get an oil change, they start at about $189. Some of us, all right, and I'll confess, all right, some of us, we are so happy to see how gas prices are falling below the $4. Mine stay close to $5. The other day I was telling my daughter, we were talking about expenses. We were talking about expenses, and she complained about having to put, I showed her my receipt. To fill up my car was $89. And I'll confess to you, sometimes when I look at it, but I've learned that when I start saving, when it was time to get those tires, and it came up to a little over $1,300 to get all of the stuff that was on there, because I had money in the savings and I hadn't gotten tired of putting there, I already had the money. Don't get tired of putting it in. You can start by putting $10 in per check. Don't touch it. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. It doesn't mean that you're going to get to 1,000 quick, but just put it in there. Put it in one of those savings accounts that you forget about. Have them take it. All right. Paul exhorts them. He gives an exhortation. Don't get weary in well-doing. In particular, in the spiritual and natural sense, he says, if you're doing what's right in the sight of God, don't grow weary. Keep doing it. God, I'm trying to live saved, but these folk on my job, they're still doing me wrong. They're still backstabbing me. They're still backbiting. They're still lying on me. And I'm doing what's right, but I'm getting tired of doing what's right. I want to go off on somebody. Paul says, don't grow weary in well-doing. That's his exhortation. When I'm doing it based on the word of God, I know it can get tiring, but don't grow weary. Paul brings out something else here, and I want to challenge you, not only in this exhortation, but he says, I'm exhorting you not to grow weary because you really have an expectation. Everybody say expectation. Say it loud. Say expectation. It's right there in the text. He says, in due season. Everybody say in due season. He says, for in due season. That means that what I'm dealing with is only for a particular time in a particular season. Right now, we're dealing with the season of summer. And And I don't care what you may think about it, summer has a season where it's going to come. You can look for it. Some people try to get ready for it. Get your air conditioning maintained, and you change filters. We've changed some things in here. I don't know, after this, AC had challenges. Just one of them, one of the units in this room the other week, that was almost $2,000 just to get it where it'll start. And then these lights that they put on me so bright that it brings heat within them itself. I mean, but he says, I see you are getting weary, but don't get weary, because there is a due season. There is a reaping. Everybody say reaping season. I don't know about you, but so many people think because you do something for just a short while, you ought to reap something real quick. Some people believe that if I just put one in, I ought to at least reap 10. Some people believe if I reap or if I sow today, I ought to get it all tomorrow. He says no, in due season. So if I've not gotten it yet, if it's not there yet, if things have not changed yet, it may be because it's not the right season. Everybody's saying season. He says the reason why you cannot give up or grow weary is because there is an expectation for a change in your season. I'm giving now. It looks like I'm giving now. It looks like I'm giving now. I do what's right according to God's word. I give my tithe and offering. I'm consistent because I believe in the principles that God has laid down. I've been given, but it looks like I still get more and more behind. It looks like I get more and more bills. It looks like I'm making less and less money. I have more bills than I have a paycheck. He says, don't worry, don't get weary in it. It's just not the reaping season right now. And I think the people of God need to recognize and realize that, not only from the exhortation not to grow weary, but he says from the expectation that there will be a reaping. There will be a change. So don't stop exercising. Change is coming. Don't stop eating right. Change is coming. Don't stop living right. Change is coming. He exhorts them to say, don't get weary, but then have an expectation that your season is coming. Everybody say, my season. So with that, now I want to tell you, now I need to recognize what season I'm in then. Because right now it may just be the planting season. Planting season. Planting. Everybody say planting. Years ago, in the 80s and 90s, I used to work for the state of Texas, and during that time, there was a season that we would go out with the offenders, and all we did was tear up the ground. Tear up the ground. They would tear the ground. They would cut the grass and the weeds and tear up the ground because they were getting ready to plant. I didn't understand it all of the time because they would actually cut the grass, then tear up the ground, and then wait just a little bit, and then they would go right back over it again, and they would tear up the ground some more so that which was hard became very soft and pliable. They hadn't planted anything. They were just tearing up the ground. That was that season. A little while later, a few months later, after doing that over and over, they began to get the dirt up to a level where it was piling up in rows. We would go out there, and they would do thousands of rows, just rows. Hadn't did nothing but tear up the ground and build up the dirt. Thought to myself, okay, now this don't make sense because y'all hadn't did anything but just tear up ground and build rows. A while later, they would begin to just put seeds in. Some they would do by a manual labor. Some they would do by a machine that would do the labor. They would just put seeds in, and then they would come behind the seeds and then cover them up. And it was ironic because we put the seed in. The next week, we'd go out and just clean around the rows and water the ground. And I'm thinking, look, now, how long are we going to do this? It was weeks and even months, and I hadn't really saw a difference because the season there was for planting, for sowing. It wasn't the season for reaping. It was the season for planting. And I'll confess to you, my intellect said, how long are we going to be in the planting and the preparation season? Anybody ever gotten weary and tired during the season of just planting? God, I've been giving over, I've been giving in. I'm getting kind of tired of this now because the season of reaping He would say in the exhortation, don't grow weary, because you ought to have an expectation of the changing of the season. One of the things I love to give. I love to give. I love to give. You can't miss me going to church and giving, because I know the importance not only of obeying God's word, I know the importance of giving to ministry, that which will encourage and empower and give people instruction about the word of God. So I give to ministry. I love to give. I want to be able to give. I've been in the service where I did not get there when I wanted to, but I had to ask somebody, have you all already did the offering? Because I know it is more of a blessing to give than to receive. And so I'm one of those that give. And isn't it ironic that every time I continue to give, I may not get it today, I may not get it tomorrow, but God's word is true. He says that if you continue to give, you're going to reap something. So Paul gives an exhortation. It may just be your season to give. He says, if you continue to not grow weary, he says, you will reap. I love this. Look there in the text in verse 9. He says, for in due season. Pastor, how long? I don't know, but I do know there is a due season. Everybody say due. We took those there with the state, and we did all of the week after week. We would go and yes, we had did the ground. Yes, we had built the mound of dirt. Yes, we had planted the seed. But then we went through a season of just cleaning the road, getting the weeds off, getting the grass off, making sure that it was clean. And I'm thinking, come on now, I don't even see nothing. We would do the cleaning, and then they would begin to water dirt. Thinking, I don't even see nothing coming up, and you're going to water the dirt. You're going to clean the dirt, because they understand the biblical principle, whether they understand it from the Bible or from how God has put it in nature, that if you do this in this season, there will be a reaping in the next season. Somebody say the reaping season. Say it louder. Say the reaping season. Finally, I saw something after we had did that for a couple of months. A little bud began to come up. And we did all of that, all of these months, taking all of this time, tearing up ground, breaking the hard dirt, making it soft, then building it up, then cleaning it, then watering it, and all I'm getting right now is that little bit. Some people get tired because you only see a little change. You only see a little difference. But do you not know, if the Bible is true, and it is, that if you keep doing what you know is right, that little will become much. We would clean it, and Paul exhorts them. He says, don't grow weary, because in your due season something is going to happen. One of the best examples I can give you, I remember we would put seeds for corn. I don't know how many of you have ever looked at the process of how corn stalks grow. You put in one, and we put in one, and put in one, and put in one down the whole row. You never get a kernel of corn back. You will get a whole lot of corn that will grow up. But you have to wait, because the little bit has to grow. During that growing time, I thought that's the time to run and grab it. But you can't do it like that. You got to keep doing what you were doing. Cleaning. You got to keep preparing. You got to keep making sure the weeds are off, because in due season you will reap. Everybody say in due season. I remember when I this is years ago, when I committed myself to the giving principle of tithe and offering. And so I gave and I gave, and I expected the Lord to drop something major on me real quick because I had started giving. I started giving a whole week. I said to myself, I know something's going to happen this week because I gave last week. Boy. And so I ran to the mailbox. And I got those things that they love to send you. Everybody say bills. So I say, it's Monday, not a problem. Not a problem. Tuesday came, because I gave last week. I ran to the mailbox and I got more of those things that they love to send you. Didn't get, I said to myself, you know what? Now I know I gave last week. Can I confess to you? I was challenged with giving this week because I hadn't thought what I should have gotten from last week's giving. But I understood that I can't just stop on last week. I have to continue to not only expect this week, but I have to continue to give this week. I remember my first surprise blessing in the mail. My first surprise blessing in the mail, I said to myself, I thought I was, I gave that week and I continue to give this week with an expectation it didn't happen. But look here, God, thank you, Jesus. I didn't even know if I wanted to tell people in my own house how the Lord had blessed me during the reaping season. I said to myself, go to the bank. You ain't got to tell them, just go to the bank. Everybody say the reaping season. God says that there's an exhortation there in verse 9, but there's an expectation. He says your reaping season is coming. Now, can I confess to you? Now, I look for blessings all the time because I give all the time. I give. I love to give. Don't worry about how much. I try to make sure I'm giving. And I give even when it hurts. Because I understand this is my sowing season. There is a reaping season. Everybody say reap. Say it loud. Say reap. God often will bless you in ways that you don't really recognize or you will overlook when it's your reaping season. For some of you that are shoppers, he will allow you to rush in on a sale that you said, you know what? That's what I've been wanting all this time. Look at the Lord. I got the money. It's on sale. It's my reaping season. Sometimes God will bless you. Have you ever ran up on a gas station that all of the rest of them had high gas prices, and God allowed you to see one and say, I'm going to top it off today. It's my reaping. See, I'll give my elder brother's testimony. I think somebody brought mention of it. We were going to the mall. As a matter of fact, I won't name the name of the mall, but I was taking him to the mall, and he saw something and got out of my vehicle, looked on the ground, and God blessed him. I don't know if it was $500, $600, $700, $800 on the ground. I'm thinking to myself, now I know I'm a giver. Could it be that he stepped in front of me? It was my reaping. All I'm trying to say is God has a way, even if you unexpected, when it is your reaping season, things will start happening. Everybody say it's your season. Say it like you mean it. Say it's your season. The writer of Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 says, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. In verse 2, the latter part, he says, there is a time to plant and there is a time to pluck up what you have planted. He says, don't get weary, because in essence, there is a season in your life. You got to go through the season. So don't trip because you're getting tired. Don't trip because you're getting weary. He says, no, just don't get weary in well-doing, because you ought to expect God to do. Now, this is a major part, I'll confess to you, which is the last part, because Paul tells them there not only not to get weary in well-doing, but in due season you reap. He says, but if you do not lose heart. Now, this is major, because many people, you miss the reaping because you lose heart before it's time. You miss the benefit because you give up, you get tired, you get weary ahead of time. I quit. I'm not going back to church. I'm not dealing with them. Isn't it ironic that you can get tired of work one day, 1 week, 1 month, but you'll still show up because you recognize I won't leave until I get the check. Don't miss your season. He gives a stipulation, and I love this about God because many people believe, yes, it is true that there are some blessings that God will give you no matter what. He allows the sun to shine on the just as well as the unjust. He allows people to wake up in the morning even if they don't acknowledge him. It is still God, but then there are some things that God says, not only do I want to give you an exhortation not to grow weary, not only do I want to give you an expectation you will reap, but also there's a stipulation. If you faint not, if you don't give up. Now this is important because that tells you don't stop, don't give in, don't give out just because you hadn't gotten it yet. Everybody say don't give up. Say it loud, say don't give up. I cannot allow my situation to cause me to give up or give in. No, I'm going to keep exercising. No, I'm going to keep eating right. No, I'm going to keep showing the love of God even though I don't see it happening right now. I can't give up. He says you will reap if you faint not, if you do not grow tired of doing what is right. You shall reap if you don't lose heart. Everybody say lose heart. Now I may as well challenge you right there because there are many good reasons that someone would say, I lost heart. But that's not the reason you ought to give up on God. Somebody would say the reason I gave up is because she didn't treat me right and I'm tired of doing right by her and she's not doing right me, so I quit. God says you can't lose heart. You're going to reap the benefit. Somebody else said, you know what? He's treated me bad. He's talked to me bad. I'm tired of this foolishness. And I'm not saying that you ought to allow people to walk all over you, but there's some things that you ought to overlook and go past. You ought to not give up on showing them the love of Christ, even though they don't show you. He says, you will reap benefit, but you can't lose heart. Everybody say stipulation. Say it loud. Say stipulation. Can't hear you. Say stipulation. There are some reaping, there are some benefits that has conditions on them. Conditions. All right, preacher, I want a big paycheck, but I don't want to do what it takes to get the big paycheck. There's a condition. Preacher, all right, and I'm not advocating that you ought to play the lotteries, but they said with the lotteries, you can't win if you don't. Oh, all right. I didn't know that many knew it. They said you can't win if you don't play. The stipulation is you are only able to win if you play. Pastor's not saying play the lottery. Pastor is saying you can't win if you don't play. On your job, you ought not expect to get paid if you don't go to work. You don't get a check. You can walk behind everybody else. You can check your account. But if you have not did the job, if you have not did the work, you ought not expect to get paid. However, if you've done the job, been there every day, I've did the work, I did more work, and then it's time to get paid and they tell you, you know what? That was a mistake made. We left your name out. You didn't get all that you should have. Most of you in this room right now would say, I don't care what it takes. Before the day is over, before the doors are locked, before you make it home, the stipulation is I did what you told me to do. I ought to get paid what you say that I ought to get paid. Are you with me? God says there with the stipulation here in the book of Galatians chapter 6 verse 9, he says if you don't grow weary, you'll reap, but you can't faint. You can't give up. You can't give out. If you want to see changes in your life spiritually, you can't give up. Pastor, I'm still having these desires. I'm still having these yearnings. I'm still lusting after this, or I'm still yearning after that. But I can't give up. I can't give in because I'm going to reap the benefit. There will be a day that the old saints, he'll take the taste out of your mouth. He'll take the desire off, but you can't faint there. Everybody say don't faint. I remember there's a person, I won't call names, but there's a person I remember we would say, everything come out their mouth is a lie. Oh, God. when they get up in the morning, it's a lie. They start out, they know everybody. They worked everywhere. They've made all kind of money. They've done everything. Anybody ever know a person that looks like they lied all the time? I mean, when they come to you and they're saying stuff, you already put it in your mind, even if it's the truth, it's going to be half a truth because I know you to be a liar. Now, I've changed my heart. They've turned things around. They've asked God. They've prayed. God, help me to be a truth teller. Help me to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But I'm used to telling lies, and so if I come to you and you already got the perception that you're gonna lie, and then you're not accepting me telling the truth, sometimes you may grow weary and start turning back to your old ways and start lying. He says, don't faint. Keep telling the truth. Don't give up, because I'm going to make some changes in your heart that will turn things around. Somebody in the room may be saying, you know what, I've had these desires to do this wrong over and over. I've been doing wrong, and I'll confess to you in that doing wrong, I like doing wrong. I enjoy doing wrong. Doing wrong has gotten easy for me, but I turn my life around. I want God to help me to make changes. I want to do what's right in His sight. I want to reap the benefit of doing what's right. And so I've been doing it, and before I give up on doing what's right, I'm just going to press my way to do a little better. I'm going to press my way to do a little more. I'm going to press my way to make sure that I'm not going to void out all of the things that I've been sowing, all of the things that I've been saying right, all of the things that how I've been living right. I'm not going, because there's a stipulation, if I faint not, I know I'm going to reap. And Paul tells the church, like he's telling you and I, you cannot faint. Everybody say, don't faint. Don't faint. One of the things that I thought about, even as it relates to church, I used to get tired of driving here to the church, and across the way that there would be trash build up and people dump stuff. As a matter of fact, one day I saw some stuff in the back of the church, and I thought to myself, that's convenient. I said, no, I'm not going to do wrong. And so I will call the city of Houston, and I said to them, would you clean up? This has been here too long, too many tires and old raggedy furniture and clothes and all kind of trash. They say, well, when is trash day? I said, I don't know when trash day was, but I do know that it's piling up. I'm getting tired of coming to the house of God on the people, to be with the people of God, and there's trash across, ridiculous trash across the street. It's not enough for me to clean up some of the stuff that's out in front of here, little things, but trash over there. And so I went another week, the trash is still there. I called them right back the next week. I said, I don't know if it's on your notes, but I called last week and the trash is still there. What is the address? I gave them the address. The next week, trash still there. So I took pictures with my phone. I said, this is what I called about 2 weeks ago and then last week. So I'm going to email you the pictures of all of this trash that's here, because I was getting tired of seeing the trash, but I wasn't getting weary in calling them to tell them that it's your job to clean up that trash. I don't care what you have to do, what row is it on, and what day is trash. I say, I can't wait for that trash day. You need to come. I didn't get tired. As a matter of fact, I had an email that was sent from me from the city of Houston, the mayor's office. He didn't ask me, and they wasn't telling me about picking up trash, but I did a return on that, and I sent them pictures. I told them, I've sent to your office, I sent to the city of Houston about all this trash that's been up here over and over and over again. Nobody has done anything. I don't know if you're the right person. A few days later, I get a call from the person, the director over the trash pickup. They said, we heard that you had a problem with the trash. All I was trying to say is I couldn't faint. I saw the trash. I dealt with it over and over, week after week, but I said, I'm not going to get tired of calling them. I'm going to let them know that you may not see it. You may not want to deal with it, but I'm not going to faint, because I'm going to reap you picking up the trash. A little later, they would pick it up and people would bring more, and I'd call them again. A little later, people would bring more. I call them again. We saw the other day where they put up a sign. There's cameras out here now. I guess they're saying we're getting tired of coming up there and getting all that trash. And I'm saying to myself, what would have happened if I would have grown weary of not calling them? They probably would have left it there and would not have even picked it up. But the fact of the matter is, I did in the natural what Paul was encouraging in the natural and the spiritual. He says, don't get weary of doing what's right, because in due season you'll reap if you faint not. Tell somebody your reaping season is coming. Don't get tired of doing what's right. Don't get tired of living right. Don't get tired of acting right. Don't get tired of talking right. Just keep doing it, because you will reap if you faint not. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 19 and 20, he declares to them, as a matter of fact, turn here real quick. Well, I'll just say it. He says, if you're willing and obedient, you will reap the good. You will eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured by the sword, by the mouth of God. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1 through 14, the writer says to them, he says, if you keep doing what God tells you to do, if you're obedient to what God says, if you follow the instructions of what God says, if you're diligent to obey, he says all of these blessings not only will come up on you, but they'll overtake you. He says you can't get tired of doing what's right, because the blessing could be ready to overtake you. You're getting ready to quit and give up, and he says, no, you can't give up. He says all of these blessings shall overtake you. They'll come up on you. He says, blessed you'll be in the city. Blessed you'll be in the field. Blessed you'll be in the country. Blessed shall your fruits be, the fruit of your body. Blessed shall look at somebody and say, it's your reaping season. It's your reaping season. It's your reaping season. And I believe that's what Paul is telling us today. Naturally, literally, and spiritually. If you keep doing what's right, God has made a promise. But the stipulation is you can't quit. You can't give up. You can't give out. You can't give in. One of the things I love to do is, my wife and I, historically, we keep cars long enough to pay them off. Especially those cars that we hadn't paid cash for years ago. But now when we buy a new car, we keep it long enough to pay it off. Everybody say pay it off. New cars come up, new year come in, but we keep paying on the one we get because we want to pay it off. There's a benefit to paying off your cars. One is there will be a day you don't have to spend that money every month. There's money coming in your pocket. You don't see it now, but you keep paying, keep paying, keep paying. Keep doing those things that are right. Everybody say keep paying. You keep paying. Another benefit is if you keep paying on it and keep the proper maintenance and keep it clean, you'll see the benefit of having all of those things, and all of those things will begin to come and be a blessing for you later. I had somebody to tell me, man, your car looks like it's new all the time. Had somebody to get in the car with me. My car is 3 years, almost 4 years old, and I had a guy to get in the car and say, man, your car smells new. You keep the car like this? I said, it's a benefit, because when we paid it off, I didn't stop keeping it clean, keeping the proper maintenance. I like the benefit of being in a clean and a nice car. I remember when I first got my first used car, I did the same thing. Kept it clean. Kept it clean. Kept it clean. Kept it well maintained. When I went in to trade in that car, I kept all of the paperwork. The dealer said, okay, yeah, I see the mileage on here, but I said, you can check the record. I keep the oil change right. I keep the filters changed. I keep the tires rotated, and I keep my car. He said, I'll confess to you, you know, this car is clean. one of my first Mercedes, little Sister Perkins, one of my first Mercedes. I took it to the Mercedes dealership to get it maintained. So they kept the record. First Mercedes, they kept the record. One of the advisors there at the dealership said, "Do you know that your car is in better condition than a whole lot of these folk that brought brand new cars that don't take care of them?" He told me, by the time I bought my third Mercedes, he told me, he said, "The way you keep this car, I'm willing to buy it from you for this amount of money because of the condition that this car is in." Well, the benefit was when Harvey came, took that car away. Harvey came, took it, flooded it out. The insurance company came and they saw where it was actually ruined. And I notified them. I said, all of the records, this car is well maintained, all of the records. They said, well, the blue book value is this, that, or the other. But I see you have the records from the Mercedes dealership. I see you how this car has been well maintained, how this car has been, and the car was already paid for. And so when they passed the check, I said to myself, thank God that I wasn't weary in well-doing, because now I can reap the benefit of how he has blessed me. It's your reaping season. You just can't give up. I rode in there, and the dealership, the Mercedes dealership, actually sent me a letter and said, we heard that you had a misfortune and they didn't, your car was taken. Why don't you just come down here and check out some of these new cars? We are willing and ready to serve you to get a brand new Mercedes. I said to myself, self, is this the Lord speaking to you? Self said, you don't need no $2,000 car note right now. Just wait. All right, why did I tell you that? Because right now I'm planting the seed. Because I'm getting ready to go down there. I don't know what season it will be, but I'm getting ready to go down there and pick out that new. My daughter and I was at the dealership, I don't know how many months ago it was. She was looking at getting a new car, and I saw the one I wanted. Can I confess? Y'all family. The car was only $125. And I said to myself, Spirit of the living God, I've been sowing, and I hadn't stopped. Is this my reaping season? I felt the Spirit of God impress upon me and say, not yet. But there's some expectations if you don't faint. Not yet. And so every now and then I'll kind of look through to see if they still make them in the color that I want, how I want it, the smell, the look that I want. Everybody say your reaping season. I may not be driving that one now, but my reaping season is soon. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing while you're standing to your feet. It was Bishop Larry.